Alyssa Thomas appeared to make several hard plays against Caitlin Clark, including contact near her throat, another on the lower body, and later stepping over Clark after she went to the floor. Despite those moments, the officials did not call fouls on those specific plays. Clark later exited the game in the third quarter with a back injury, and the Indiana Fever ended up losing a game that had remained within reach. What has sparked even more discussion, though, is not just Thomas or the officiating, but Indiana head coach Stephanie White, having previously coached Alyssa Thomas with the Connecticut Sun. White's calm reaction during the game left many fans questioning whether she expected that level of physical play. Some have even wondered if Clark's injury has fueled speculation about an old strategy to slow her down. Do you think this game revealed something more, or is the reaction being overblown? Share your thoughts in the comments. Semicolon.
I listened to Stephanie White, having coached AT before. Were you surprised by the incident? Listen to Stephanie's reply.
Went back to see it. Yeah, I was surprised. I was more surprised that it wasn't seen by the officials in real time.
So Stephanie says she was surprised she didn't see it in real time. As you can see right here, Stephanie White clearly saw it as I broke down. You see, seen by both the official and Stephanie White.
The key moment came with about 6 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in the second quarter during a loose ball scramble when Caitlin Clark fell to the floor and Alyssa Thomas was involved in the play. Replays appeared to show Thomas making contact with Clark's lower body as Clark was going down, followed by contact near Clark's throat before stepping over her as the play continued. Many viewers argued that the sequence looked far more physical than a routine basketball play and questioned why no foul was called on those specific actions. The incident quickly became one of the biggest talking points of the game, with fans debating whether the officials should have handled it differently.
To the basket, and here's what hustle plays are all about. You got 3 Phoenix players around Caitlin Clark, and yeah, it's.
I mean, Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a hand to the neck, and then Alyssa Thomas steps over her. See, that's the kind of stuff that can incite some future trouble.
The officials had a clear view of the play since it happened in the middle of the court, yet no foul was called, leading many fans to question the decision. Clark remained in the game for a short time afterward, but exited in the third quarter with a back injury. Indiana eventually lost a close 111-109 game, and many believe Clark's absence played a major role in the outcome. The incident also brought back memories of a physical play between Alyssa Thomas and Clark during the 2024 season, when Thomas delivered a hard body check that many viewers felt deserved a whistle but did not receive one, adding to the ongoing debate about how these matchups have been officiated.
The look here at the heavy contact. A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder there for Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, they're not going to look at this. They might.
It's gotten the fans here fired up.
The latest incident has only added to the growing frustration among fans. One analyst pointed to several plays across Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark's matchups that were described as unnecessary or overly physical, noting that very few resulted in fouls and that one call was later overturned. Because of that, many believe this has been an ongoing issue dating back to Clark's rookie season. The discussion has also expanded beyond Clark, with critics pointing to a hard collision involving Napheesa Collier during the 2025 playoffs that resulted in a left leg injury, raising more questions about Thomas' physical style of play and whether officials have been consistent in handling those situations.
The tip was clean by Thomas.
But look at that.
They banged knees after the Alyssa Collier.
She has 21 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and Fee is being
helped back to the locker room. Let's go over to Angel Gregg.
Yeah, I'm watching her walk through the tunnel right now. She is clearly.
The criticism of Alyssa Thomas' physical style has continued to grow over the years. After Nafisa Collier's injury, Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve publicly expressed her frustration, bringing even more attention to the incident while Thomas remained in the lineup. In another highly discussed moment during the 2025 season, Thomas was assessed a flagrant 2 foul after a hard play that sent Angel Reese to the floor. Fans also pointed to an unrivaled game in which Thomas made contact with Cameron Brink, who was already playing with a broken nose, adding to the ongoing debate about whether her aggressive approach on the court crosses the line.
He bumped to the face. Oh, gosh. It's got to be so tough. Cameron just with the wherewithal getting hit and still made the basket. That was super impressive.
Supporters who criticize Alyssa Thomas argue that the discussion is no longer about a single incident, pointing to physical plays involving Caitlin Clark, Nafisa Collier, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink across multiple seasons and competitions. They believe these moments show a repeated pattern of overly aggressive play and question whether the league has responded strongly enough. Many also feel Clark's third-quarter exit had a major impact on Indiana's narrow 2-point loss, arguing that the physical nature of the game went unchecked. However, for some fans, the biggest talking point was not Thomas herself, but the reaction from the Indiana Fever bench as the events unfolded, which has sparked even more debate following the game.
During the game, have you seen that? Did that have any impact on her health in this one?
I just saw it. I'm not sure if it had any impact on the health or her health or not. But it was egregious. The fact that it was a no call. I heard about it at halftime. I brought it to the attention of the officials at halftime. Yet we still had 11 fouls in the fourth quarter to their 2. They still shot 24 free throws in the second half.
After the game, Stephanie White told reporters that she did not see the incident involving Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark as it happened and only became aware of it at halftime. That response quickly drew criticism from some fans, who felt the situation deserved a much stronger reaction from the Fever's head coach. Given the physical nature of the play and Clark's eventual exit with a back injury, many questioned whether White's comments reflected the seriousness of what had taken place, fueling even more debate about the team's response and the handling of the incident.
Number one, you gotta call it. It's absolutely egregious and utterly disrespectful. And then number 2, you're coming in here aware of what happened 2 nights ago, and that shit still happens? Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Stephanie White later described the incident in strong terms, calling the contact to Caitlin Clark's throat dangerous and saying the officials' decision not to call a foul was completely unacceptable. However, those comments came only after the game had ended, when the Fever had already suffered a narrow 2-point loss and Clark had exited with a back injury. Because of that timing, some fans argued that while White's remarks were forceful, they came too late to have any impact on the outcome of the game or the situation that had already unfolded.
Reckless closeout that they actually reviewed, and the foot still comes down on top of the defender's foot that wasn't upgraded? Absolutely disrespectful. We have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say again, absolutely unacceptable.
What many fans find difficult to understand is Stephanie White's explanation that she did not see the incident live. As head coach, she had a full coaching staff on the bench, and part of their role is to monitor everything happening on the court, especially when a player is involved in a hard collision. White later acknowledged that she learned about the play at halftime, meaning she entered the second Half aware of what had happened to Caitlin Clark, some critics believe there was no visible effort afterward to pressure the officials or take stronger action to protect Clark for the remainder of the game. They have compared that response to Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve, who publicly voiced her frustration immediately after Napheesa Collier's injury during the 2025 playoffs rather than waiting until after the game.
Peterson, the assistant coach, had to come get her.
Cheryl Reeve took a much more aggressive approach after Napheesa Collier's injury during the 2025 playoffs. She confronted the officials during the game, was ejected, and later strongly criticized the officiating in her post-game remarks, while calling for changes to the league's officiating leadership. Her actions came with significant consequences, including a reported $15,000 fine, believed to be the largest individual fine in WNBA history, and a suspension that prevented her from coaching Game 4, which the Lynx went on to lose. Because of those actions, many fans believe Reeve clearly showed she was willing to accept personal consequences while standing up for her players.
The crew that we had tonight, for the leadership to deem those three people semifinals playoff worthy is fucking malpractice. I can take an L with the best of them. I don't think we should have to play through more than what they did. We got players, Masha's on the glass, and gets fucking cracked. And there's no call.
Many fans have pointed to Becky Hammon as an example of a coach who is quick to defend her star player. Whenever Asia Wilson takes heavy contact, or there are controversial officiating decisions, Hammon is often seen challenging the referees and speaking openly about what she believes are problems with the league's physical style of play. She has also argued that some of the contact allowed in the WNBA would not be tolerated in the NBA. Because of that, supporters believe her reactions put pressure on officials and keep attention on player safety. In comparison, some critics felt Stephanie White's response was much more measured, giving the impression that her comments were carefully controlled rather than aimed at forcing an immediate response from the league or the WNBA officials. Many critics felt Stephanie White's response came across as carefully measured, arguing that she chose her words in a way that avoided putting significant public pressure on the league or the officials. While she later described the play involving Caitlin Clark as dangerous, many agreed with that assessment, but believed the timing mattered just as much as the message. In their view, coaches who are determined to defend their players make their objections known during the game, forcing officials and the league to address the situation immediately instead of waiting until the post-game press conference.
Steph, having coached AT before, were you surprised by the incident?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I didn't see it in real time. And so when I went back to see it, I was surprised. I was more surprised that it wasn't seen by the officials in real time. You know, I think the eye discipline, for lack of a better term, sometimes I feel like all the officials are watching the ball and nobody's watching the play. You have a player that's down on the ground, certainly some things are going to happen. So I was very disappointed that they didn't see that in real time.
Stephanie White also suggested that the missed calls were the result of the officials focusing too much on the ball instead of what was happening away from it, saying that no one was watching the action once a player went to the floor. While some viewed that as a reasonable explanation of the officiating, others felt it did not fully reflect the seriousness of the incident involving Caitlin Clark. Critics have argued that the difference between White's response and those of coaches like Cheryl Reeve or Becky Hammon comes down to urgency, believing they would have applied much stronger pressure during the game itself. That discussion has also led some fans to revisit White's previous relationship with Alyssa Thomas, whom she coached with the Connecticut Sun during the 2023 and 2024 seasons, raising questions about whether that history influenced public perception of her response. Stephanie White spent 2 full seasons coaching Alyssa Thomas with the Connecticut Sun, where DeWanna Bonner was also part of the team, giving White first-hand knowledge of Thomas' physical style of play. Because of that history, some fans have found it notable that the incident involving Caitlin Clark happened while White was coaching the opposing team. The discussion has also resurfaced comments White made after becoming Indiana Fever's head coach, when she said that physical play could be an effective way to challenge Clark because she believed it disrupted her rhythm. Those remarks have since been widely debated, with some critics arguing they unintentionally highlighted an area opponents could target, while others view them as routine basketball analysis rather than an invitation for excessive physical play.
And here, Stephanie White, just listen to what she said.
Level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent.
I knew it as an opponent. You notice when Stephanie White says a complete BS, she always got, huh? It was like,
We don't like it.
we don't like it.
Sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise because everybody else finds themselves.
Finds themselves. We don't like it.
I knew it as an opponent.
I knew it as an opponent.
We don't like it.
Now maybe some people believe Stephanie White's comments were simply honest basketball analysis, suggesting that Caitlin Clark would need to adjust to physical defense as her career progressed. Others, however, argue that regardless of her intention, those remarks publicly identified an area opponents could try to exploit. Because White had previously coached Alyssa Thomas for 2 seasons with the Connecticut Sun, some fans have connected those comments to Thomas' physical style of defending Clark, while Thomas had already been involved in several hard contests against Clark dating back to 2024. The discussion has continued over whether White's earlier observations unintentionally reinforced a strategy that opponents were already using rather than creating a new one. Some critics believe Stephanie White's earlier comments about Caitlin Clark struggling with physical defense reflected a coaching philosophy she had emphasized during her time with the Connecticut Sun. They argue that players often develop their approach within the system their coaches create, pointing to White's 2 seasons working closely with Alyssa Thomas as part of that discussion. Based on that connection, some fans have suggested that White's public comments about defending Clark echoed the same type of physical strategy Thomas has frequently used. Others, however, view those remarks as standard basketball scouting rather than evidence of any deliberate plan, making the interpretation a subject of ongoing debate.
Is one of the wildest games I have ever watched in my life. I watched Caitlin Clark get punched in the throat. I watched Caitlin Clark get kneed in the groin, get kneed in the ribs. I watched Caitlin Clark hit the ground repeatedly. For months now, I've been talking about how Stephanie White's system will lead to a Caitlin Clark injury. So
from that perspective, some critics believe the events of June 24th raised difficult questions. They note that Alyssa Thomas' physical approach against Caitlin Clark appeared consistent with Stephanie White's earlier comments that physical defense could be an effective way to challenge Clark, because White coached Thomas for 2 seasons and knows her style of play well. Some fans have connected those facts and questioned whether her response after the game was forceful enough. While there is no evidence of any coordinated plan or conspiracy, the combination of White's previous coaching relationship with Thomas, her past public comments about Clark's game, and her measured post-game reaction has fueled debate about whether stronger action or stronger public criticism should have come during the game rather than afterward.
And again, Coach Stephanie White also said this after the game. Cheap shots, disrespectful. She's not officiated the same as other stars in this league, and she should be. She should have that grace. She should be granted that privilege to have a whistle that protects her, to have a whistle that keeps her out on the floor, to have a whistle that allows her to play her game.
Critics argue that Stephanie White's long coaching history with Alyssa Thomas makes her post-game comments a major point of discussion. Having coached Thomas for 2 seasons, White is familiar with her aggressive style of play, leading some fans to believe she understood exactly how Thomas competes. They also point to White's earlier public comments about Caitlin Clark and suggest that, when viewed together with her measured reaction after the game, Those factors have fueled speculation about whether a stronger response should have come during the game itself. While there is no evidence that White encouraged or approved any excessive contact, the combination of her past relationship with Thomas and her post-game remarks has become a central topic of debate. As those discussions continued, attention quickly shifted to how the league would respond to the incident, with many fans closely watching whether any disciplinary action would follow.
Just announced that Alyssa Thomas is suspended for 1 game after receiving a flagrant foul 2 penalty for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat of Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has announced. And this was pretty quick. This is actually quicker than I expected the WNBA to act and review the play from last night. This is also new because from what I can remember, I don't think they've upgraded anything. All of these egregious fouls that we've seen over the past 2 years, I actually don't think they've upgraded any of them to suspensions after the fact. So I'm really glad that they did take it this far. I think it's well deserved.
On June 25th, the WNBA announced that, after reviewing the play, it upgraded the incident involving Alyssa Thomas to a flagrant 2 foul for reckless contact to Caitlin Clark's throat, describing it as a non-basketball action. As a result, Thomas received a 1-game suspension and was set to miss the Phoenix Mercury's road game against the Toronto Tempo. The league presented the decision as evidence that its review process worked by correcting what officials did not call during the game. However, many fans felt the punishment was too lenient, arguing that a 1-game suspension was the minimum meaningful discipline the league could issue, and that the penalty did not fully reflect the seriousness of the incident.
She should be fired. Kathy Engelbert should be out the door. This is a joke. As opposed to sending a real statement, I'm talking 10 games, 20 games, a massive fine. They have handed down a 1-game suspension to Alyssa Thomas. This league is not serious at all.
The league's decision sparked a strong reaction across social media, with many fans arguing that a 1-game suspension was not enough. While some described the punishment as too lenient, others called for a much longer suspension or even harsher disciplinary action. One widely shared comment questioned whether missing a single game was an appropriate consequence for such a serious incident, reflecting the frustration felt by many viewers. Although opinions varied on what the proper penalty should have been, a large number of fans believed the league should have imposed a longer suspension to better match the severity of the play. Many fans argued that the 1-game suspension did not fully reflect the seriousness of the incident, especially because they viewed it as part of a broader pattern rather than an isolated event. Critics pointed to previous physical plays involving Alyssa Thomas and said the league should have considered that history when determining the penalty. From their perspective, this was not simply about 1 game or 1 moment, but about repeated concerns over player safety across multiple seasons. As a result, many felt that suspending Thomas for just 1 game was too light a punishment and did not send a strong enough message about the league's commitment to protecting its players.
This is ridiculous. The league does not want to clean itself up. This league does not want to grow. This league does not want to further itself and better itself. Upon post-game review, the Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas had received a flagrant foul 2 penalty and 1-game suspension for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark.
Many fans also argued that the bigger issue was not just the suspension, but the officiating during the game itself. They believe that reviewing and upgrading a foul after the final buzzer cannot undo an injury or change the outcome of a close contest. While the league's review process can identify missed calls and apply discipline afterward, critics say it does little to protect players in real time when dangerous plays occur. Because of that, many have called for improvements to in-game officiating and replay procedures. pointing out that other professional sports leagues have introduced systems designed to catch serious incidents before they have a lasting impact on the game. Many critics have compared the WNBA's disciplinary process with those used in other professional leagues, noting that some sports impose increasingly severe penalties for repeat offenders or have stricter rules for dangerous contact. They argue that stronger consequences can discourage similar incidents in the future. In contrast, some fans believe the WNBA's reliance on post-game reviews and relatively limited suspensions does not provide enough of a deterrent. From that perspective, a one-game suspension sends a message that the consequences for serious on-court incidents are not severe enough, leading many to call for tougher discipline and stronger in-game enforcement to better protect players.
And now, not only do they have the treatment for the last 3 years, and now they got last night, but even worse, the pathetic suspension makes this look even worse. It makes it look terrible. The league has no self-awareness whatsoever. It's crazy.
After the suspension was announced, WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert praised the league's review process, saying it functioned as intended. However, some fans felt those comments focused more on defending the league's procedures than addressing concerns about player safety. Critics argued that a one-game suspension did not match the seriousness of the incident and questioned whether the league was doing enough to protect its players. They also pointed to Caitlin Clark's enormous impact on the WNBA's popularity, including increased television ratings, sold-out arenas, and greater national attention, suggesting that the league has a strong incentive to ensure its biggest stars are protected. While Clark is expected to return, the debate over officiating, discipline, and player safety continues to generate strong reactions across the basketball community. The incident has continued to fuel debate because of the connections involved. Some critics have questioned Stephanie White's response, noting that she previously coached Alyssa Thomas and had earlier commented that physical defense could be an effective way to challenge Caitlin Clark. They argue that her explanation after the game, saying she did not see the play live, has only intensified the discussion. At the same time, others stress that there is no evidence of any deliberate plan against Clark, making much of the conversation a matter of eye